Good day, guys. Today we move on to the chapter 5, the modes of communication, an exploration of modern society. So, what are we all going to see into that? So, we have already seen so many other types of communication. The communication can be verbal, non-verbal, listening communication, visual, written communication, and digital communication. We have seen so many communication. So you just think about your daily conversation, whether it is chatting with a friend, attending a lecture, or giving a speech. These are all examples of verbal communication. The words we choose convey our thoughts directly. So that is all about verbal communication, where the tone and pitch. Imagine trying to express your excitement or sadness. It is not just the words, but how we say them, the emphasis on it, the modulation we give, that adds depth and meaning to our spoken words. These things play a major part in the verbal communication. And what are all the language barriers we have in the verbal communication? Have you ever tried talking to someone who speaks a different language or has a strong accent? It can be challenging, right? So, highlighting the importance of translation, understanding different accents, that can be little barrier to the verbal communication. So, when we move on to the non-verbal communication, what plays a major role? It is all about the body language. So, non-verbal communication that always has a major part on the body language, how we present ourselves, the posture, the body posture, the eye contact, which is very powerful, the gestures. For example, crossing your arms might suggest you are defensive, while nodding, like simple gesture of nodding your head can show your agreement. And your facial expression that can speak more words. When you are frowning, it is not going to give impression about yourself in the gathering. So facial expressions are universal and it can speak words without even speaking a single word, like smiling. When you are very much inquisitive, or you're so much surprised, you raise your eyebrows. So these things, they would convey the wide range of emotions. So also when it comes to non-verbal communication, the personal space comes to a play. Think about how you would feel when someone stands too close. So you have to be comfortable with them. Only if they are very much close in person, only then you will feel comfortable. So respecting personal space and understanding the social rules, it really makes the interactions comfortable. So we have already spoken about the verbal and non-verbal communication. So when we move forward, it is about the written communication. So what is a written communication? Anything putting into words without speaking, sorry, if it is in the written format, those all comes into the written communication platform. So it is all giving a resume. You give a resume when you apply for a job. That is a written communication. You write down a to-do list, what I have to do today. That is a written communication. You raise an invoice. You receive a check. You receive a bill. You send a bill. You have the user manual of any washing machine or any gas stove. You have a recipe in your system. So these things all come into the category of written communication. So what are all the pros and cons? So sometimes when it is written communication, like it is it is accurate, it can be clear and efficient. So resignation, we give it in the written format because it it communicates very clearly that I'm going to resign the job. So it is a strength. But when it comes to emotion, it is bit, very hard to convey the emotion we have. So that is a very bit hard part in the written communication. There may be delays. It is not like I'm just saying you something, you are done, you are doing it right away. But written communication, I'm going to write, I'm going to send it, and you have to read it, and you have to acknowledge, and you have to get to the point, and you have to reply me back. So there is going to be so much delay, or there can be misinterpretation also. When we are talking in person, we will get to know what the other person is really going to say. But when the thing is conveyed, the word, they may convey different emotion. So there can be misinterpretation when it comes to the part of written communication. And we have spoken about visual communication in the introduction of communication chapter. So anything that we see and we interpret something. So those all comes into the part category of visual communication. A colorful poster, a colorful drawing, a colorful bar graph, anything, an advertisement, anything that we visually see and we are ready to understand certain things that is being conveyed there, that comes into the category of visual communications. So the infographics, advertisements, and even the presentation slides, whichever we are going through now, that is also a form of visual communication. So when we move on to digital communication, these things we have already seen in the introduction of communication, the chapter. So we are moving it a little faster so that because you have already gone through it. So digital communication is like, we use the systems, emails are quick, efficient. We use the social media platforms. We are setting up a video call. We are in Zoom. We are in Google Meet. We are in Microsoft Teams. Those things, everything whichever involves all the digitality of the modern days things for communication, that all comes into the category of digital communication. So Insta, Facebook, everything, Twitter, everything comes into the category of digital communication. So we have yet another thing. Like these things, we had the mode of communication. Now we have seen the communication, the classification of communication through which we communicate. Now we categorize the same communication where it is being categorized into different categories based on the whom we are communicating to. Is it between two persons? Is it between it is to a group, or it is being delivered to a mass? So that way the communication can be interpersonal communication, group communication, or it can be mass communication. So mass communication we know. So the TV news, the radio news, the newspapers, everything come into the category of mass communication where we are targeting a broad amount of people, so many people. It can reach millions of people. So those all come into the category of mass communication. But when it is coming to group communication, it is a small team, like a office team, a group of college people, a group of classroom people, a different sector of people. Those things come into a group of society people, a small apartment society, or a small Rotarian society. Those things come into group communication. So there we have to be clear about the objectives. The group communication has to be, and there has to be good collaboration, and the effective feedback has to be open and honest. So that everybody is on the same page. Okay. So moving on to this interpersonal communication. This means the act of listening. It is between two persons. So that interpersonal communication involves Active listening, we have talked so much about active listening in other parts. One has to pay attention, they have to give feedback, they have to ask questions, they have to empathize, they have to feel others' feeling, they have to get stronger connection, and they have to give some feedbacks as well. And these things all put together will come into the part of interpersonal communication, where the communication is between just two persons. So, exploring different modes of communication reveals the ways we can connect and share information. So, they vary from verbal, non-verbal, digital, visual, other forms of communication where we have interpersonal, mass, group communication. So, understanding these forms is essential for effective communication in our personal, professional, and public lives. Hope you understood all the points. Go through the PPT and have a happy learning. Thank you all.